What is up, you guys? I am Nastya Shutka if you do not know me, and we are back this week with another video. Now, this week's video has come quite early, I will have to say, because usually, or at least the last time I did this, it was supposed to be a Christmas or sort of end of year thing that I would be doing. But I've got quite excited about this idea. I've discussed it already, and all of the excitement and all of the talking has made me want to do it now, okay? Whilst the idea is fresh, whilst it's still in my brain, otherwise by the time I get to December, I feel like I won't have time to do it. So, what am I going to be making? Or what am I going to be drawing? That is the question. Well, last time during COVID, I made a picture, and actually there's a video of it if you haven't seen it. It's a bit of an older one. I did a picture of me and my group of friends as Akatsuki members. Now, I had a discussion with a few friends and we came up with the idea that this should be a yearly thing where I pick a show or a film or some sort of pop culture. This year, I've come up with quite a good idea, I think. Something a little more fun, okay? Just because, again, I'm in a mood where I want to do goofier pieces. I have come up with the show Teletubbies. An absolute classic. Not just in Britain, but I guess across the world. But I think it will be quite a funny piece. So I know that you haven't seen anything yet, we're just getting started, but do subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when I upload next. And well, let's hope that you'd like and comment on this piece and share it with people once we get to making it. So let's stay tuned and let's get on with it. And between you and me, I feel like this piece is going to be cursed. I am also going to approach this piece in slightly of a different style. I do have a style with markers and watercolor that I do like using that I haven't done in a while, so I'm going to go for that dramatic effect. Did a mock-up yesterday when the idea was fresh in my mind, but I don't really like the layout or the composition, if I'm honest. I have a very specific idea in my head, and I've been looking at all the Beatles posters because that's what's kind of in there, and I am gonna test out those ideas right now just to see what I prefer. Okay, so the first thing that I will be doing is sharpen my pencil because, well, this is blunt as hell. And then for the finer details, I just use a mechanical pencil. Now, this paper is just heavy grain, just because I like it to be quite thick. I am going to be using multimedia. And let's get into the sketch. So, I didn't have any crazy plan or idea for this. I just kind of had my digital render. I had two, as you saw earlier on, one vertical, one horizontal. It was a bit of a difficult pick for me to choose which one I wanted to go for, but I did end up going for the horizontal one, just because I think getting everyone into the piece made more sense horizontally than vertically, and there was a lot more opportunity to play with, you know, the amount of color and some hands and just sort of stuff like that. Now, why Teletubbies? Now, I don't really know, if I'm going to be honest with you. Teletubbies was just in my brain for some reason. I had discussed it with quite a few people in the group before I even wanted to actually draw it, and I don't know, a lot of people were not necessarily the most excited about a Teletubby rendition of our group, but in my heart, I just knew that I had to do Teletubbies. It was calling my name and it had to be done. Our group's name originates just from the fact that we used to watch a lot of horror movies, so a lot of people were like, oh, we should do horror-themed ones, and I think for the next time, I will probably look into doing a horror-themed piece for our group, but again, I really just wanted to do the Teletubbies. I thought it would be funny. I thought it would be just quite cute, and again, a little bit cursed, but you know, all great things on the internet are just slightly cursed, and I don't regret doing it. I definitely think it was a fun piece. I enjoyed myself so much whilst making this, and I can't say that it was definitely actually a stress-free piece. I didn't stress a lot whilst making it. It was very empty brain, let's just go with the flow. Didn't really plan what I was going to do with any of the sort of layers and equipment that I was going to use. I just was like, oh, you know, I'm going to use this, I'm going to use some of that, I'm going to add this, let's see how it goes, and it worked out quite well. I think the final piece is the best it could have possibly been. As for the sketch, I just sort of focused on making sure I got the likeness of everyone, because that was my main concern, since I do have 7 people I needed to draw and all 7 people had to actually look like themselves so that this piece was accurate. And I think I did an okay job. The sketch is officially done. It's already looking so cursed, I'm not even gonna lie. I do like it as a base. I think composition is, I'm very happy with it. I am just gonna do a really basic outline, nothing too crazy, nothing too spectacular. Let's get started. Now, back in my manga drawing days, I did just used to use regular fine liners, you know, the sort of softer ones that are more liquidy rather than biro-y. But I do find that I struggle a little bit with those. I struggle to commit to the line, and I feel like with biro there's a lot less sort of commitment with it. And I did end up doing a lot of biro outlined pieces in uni, and just quite recently it's been my go-to. It also just gives me an option that if I want to go back and use biro to thicken them up, I have that option, or if I want to come back and use a regular fine liner or something thicker, I can. It just allows a bit of leeway so I can sort of secure that sketch and then rub out all of the pencil marks underneath that were really, really rough, and then just keep focusing. As you can see, I also really struggled with that girl's mouth. It was driving me absolutely mental, but we got there in the end. Okay, so now we're looking at the finished outline. It looks a little less messy, but now it is time to get the base colors down before I start really getting the colors in. Gonna get my markers out. Let's go. So I also found this tip online once where someone who was using watercolors or gouache and stuff like that, I think mostly watercolor, would put down a marker base just so that they obviously had that space filled, and then the watercolor worked as a way to layer and layer without having to not have a vibrant base, because watercolor by nature can lack vibrancy unless you add a lot of layers or unless you're really good at using them. And I'm not that good at watercolor, so I cannot get really nice bright bases with it. So I usually just go in with some markers, but I always go with a lighter color. I never go for a very vibrant base, just so that if I do want to pull back the color, have a bit of light areas, have a bit of dark areas, I can do that with the watercolor rather than jeopardizing that with the markers. So even for the Teletubbies, I didn't even pick necessarily the exact shade. Like for the orange one right now here, I'm using yellow just because yellow adds a bit more vibrancy underneath. And for this purple one, I went for a very like mauvey grey purple rather than anything super bright or super in your face. I don't really use any markers in particular. I have Poscas, Prismas, Pro markers, Copics, like all sorts. I'm not too specific or loyal to one kind. I'm also curious to know, let me know who your favorite Teletubby is. Is it Lala? Is it Poe? In the comment section, and we can see who's the crowd favorite, you know? So like I said, this is going to be a really big multimedia piece. I've just finished my base with my markers. Next thing I am going to be using is some India ink. The reason I want to use India ink rather than straight away going full gouache is just because I think India ink is very, very bright and neon, and although in my reference nothing's very neon, I want all the colors to be super, super bright. So at this point, I was looking at the base that I had done, and I was like, you know what, I can always pull back the colors with, you know, pencils or something. So I was like, I want the base to be even brighter. So I pulled out the India inks just because they're not, you know, too dense in color. Like they'll make everything vibrant, but they won't be too heavy. I will still have some areas that are sort of light, and I can definitely come back in with watercolor and add the depth that I wanted. The only one that I didn't think actually was bright enough was the red tubby. I don't know what was up with that India ink. It just kind of kept going a bit flat, whilst the rest were very, very bright and did exactly what I wanted them to do. Sometimes you just need a good tool. I have mentioned earlier that obviously the original Tubbies only have 4 colors, and well, there's 7 of us in this piece, so I kind of had to hit every single color in the rainbow to get all of us involved. I did debate just having everyone maybe just have an extra same color, so 2 red Tubbies, 2 purple Tubbies. I just thought, you know, each person is individual and I'd just much rather give them their own color. It was also a bit of a struggle to decide what other shapes to give people, so I did decide to go for the classical circle, square and swirl, but I did add a moon and a star for myself and my friend. Now the moon, well, she requested the moon herself, and the star I wanted to put on the orange tubby, but her antennae is out of the frame, out of the composition. I didn't really know where to put it, so instead I just put it on my head because I did need to fill up that space anyway, and at least the star is in the middle and present, so it didn't disappear. As you can see, I am finally moving on to the watercolor portion, so I'm just kind of adding a little bit of layering, a bit of depth. I used a purple for shading across the whole piece, so no matter what the color, I used purple as the shading color, just to sort of add a bit of depth to it. If my A-level teacher taught me anything, she taught me a lot, but if she taught me anything, it was to not use the same color for the highlights and for the darks and for the midtones. You need something else to give that depth, so purple was my choice. I'm gonna be real with you. This piece, just like every piece, I literally say this in every video, is taking longer than anticipated. And that is fine. I want it to come out nicely, so it doesn't even matter. And so I've done a sort of base second layer on everywhere, and we are going to move on now to doing sort of a little more depth into each tubby, along with all of the faces. So that's going to be my next course of action. I did initially not really know how I wanted to approach the suits, the tubby suits. I guess they are supposed to be furry or just some sort of, you know, texture to it, and it didn't feel right for me to just sort of cell shade and not add any texture, so a lot of my shading is a bit bumpy and lumpy, and I did add some darker colors into the middle, into those areas, just so that it did feel like it was a textured suit and it wasn't just sort of baby smooth like a dolphin, because I think if anything is more scarier than a person in a tubby suit anyway, it is a dolphin tubby suit where it's just flat. So that's kind of the way I wanted to approach the suits. Now as for the faces, obviously we're a very diverse group. I wanted to catch all the tones very well, and I did sort of put everyone into categories for the bases I wanted to use. So even though 3 of the people that I drew have quite a pale complexion anyway, they do have different undertones. So my friend in the pink here is a very pink undertone, and then my friend in the blue is a very sort of a warm orangey undertone, and I really wanted to capture that when I was doing the shading on their faces. I wasn't too precious about how I was laying down the colours. I did just kind of want to ensure I was getting the depth in the areas I wanted to, so that's why it is sort of haphazard, not really any specific technique going on with it. And moving on to purple tubby over here, it was very important for me to get the facial hair correct on him. The facial hair is a very important part of his visual, and I felt that if I got that wrong, well, we would completely lose his likeness and it wouldn't be right. So I was really paying attention to the textures and getting the colours right for that beard. I feel like the purple tubby within the show and even in my piece is a bit darker than the others, so I did need to make the shading even darker than the rest of the teams. So instead of, I did use the purple base, but obviously purple and purple is just purple, so I did go for a sort of really almost black blue for the shading here. As for the yellow tubby, I was teetering on the sort of lines of him almost looking like a very light orange tubby compared to the already present orange tubby, so it was a bit of a battle between it. I tried to leave a lot of openly yellow areas and just have a bit of the orange shading. The yellow tubby was also an interesting choice in facial expressions. I wanted initially to kind of set everyone up with a really smiley face so that, you know, it's a child show, so I wanted that overt happiness in the piece. But then when I went to sort of find pictures for my mock-up on my iPad, I just didn't feel like I had an appropriately smiley photo for some people, and also just with their personalities I thought it would be funny to go a different way. So I did keep pink and orange and green Tubby very, very smiley and happy, because I feel like that was very fitting. As for yellow Tubby, well, he makes the best mog face, so how could I not have included that? As for purple Tubby, well, he's Mr. Model, okay, Mr. Gorgeous with the longest eyelashes, you know, making every single woman jealous, so had to be a fashion icon up in here. And then, well, blue Tubby kind of had to go for the, you know, the classic duck face. How could you not? The duck face has to be ever present, even in the 2020s. Although I will have to add that the overtly smiley faces and expressions were the bane of my existence. I hate drawing teeth, and I don't know if that's the same across every artist's brain, the same as hands usually are, but man, teeth are just wild to get correct. You know, you start drawing them and you're like, they look relatively correct, and then they just look really horrible and wrong and then scary and just very toothy. But then somehow when you start adding the shading and all the colours, they are fitting and fine. It's definitely one of those, like, trust the processes, because if you don't, you're going to redo them 1,000 times. You already saw me earlier on redraw one of the mouths, and yeah, I didn't want to have to do that 1,000 times over. As for the background, I kept it really, really simple. I didn't want to do too much just because there's a lot going on already, so blue it was. I've been looking at the piece just a little bit, and I am feeling like something is missing with it. I did go in with a biro to start thickening up those lines around the sort of perimeter of the pieces, but I just feel like the biro is not working the way I want it to on this paper specifically. Again, I don't know if it's this paper or if it's to do with all the layers that I've done with the watercolor and the India ink. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up switching to a Posca pen. So I am just going to go to a Posca. I'm hoping I can get really nice thick lines. I feel like maybe with this piece a more sort of cartoony outline will be a bit better rather than so thin. I think afterwards I am going to see if I'm going to continue doing that with the face or if I'm just going to keep it with the outline of the sort of Teletubby suit. But I will come back and I will update you on that decision later on. So off we go. This was definitely my favourite part of the entire process. Having to come back with those really, really thick lines from the Posca, I think just brought the entire piece together. I did start off cross-hatching just a little bit, and like I said earlier, it just wasn't sort of hitting for me. The biro was not doing enough and the paper was just not loving it. It was not taking it at all. So I did want to go back with that really sort of thick outline, make it cartoony. I know Teletubbies are not 2D, they are 3D, but with this piece, it just felt right to go down that sort of thick outline route. I did debate doing the faces, and then I did converse with one of my friends with the pink Tubby, and she did say that we should keep the faces as they are, because obviously there's more detail in there, they are smaller, the thick outline just works better because a lot of the space is empty in the sense that, you know, the colours are just colours and just shading. So they didn't mind having quite a thick outline, but the faces needed to be thin with the biro. And I was just going to come back with the cross-hatching technique that I was talking about earlier. When doing the outline as well, I didn't want to do like a nice, smooth, solid line. I did go for quite a textured outline because, again, they are in a suit. I wanted to kind of convey that texture, and it had to be done through the suit. So every single outline to do with it, it's very squiggly, it's very all over the place, but very purposefully, so that everyone looked nice and furry. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of super talented watercoloring artists who can get really good depth with their watercolors, and that's just not me. I can lay down some layers, get some color, but for me, I always find the depth that I want to be missing. And again, I've had a technique before that I've just loved with cross-hatching, and I did want to incorporate that here. So I did take the biro and I came back to cross-hatch everything and just add the depth that I wanted. Now, the reason I don't go for a classic fine liner is just I find that the fine liner is really dark, and then it starts to take away from the other colors that I have used and the sort of layering that I did with the watercolors. And biro has a very similar effect in the sense that you get the depth, but it doesn't take away from everything else, especially depending on how you cross-hatch and how much you push it down, how close they are together. You know, it just really varies by hand. I do love the technique. I think it really did end up adding a lot to all the faces, and I'm very happy I didn't go in with a Posca to deal with the faces, and I just stuck to that biro. The only downside with that biro and cross-hatching technique was that because of the nature of biro, it reflects. So when I cross-hatched everything, it really interfered with the Posca that I had used to outline all the tubby suits. And I just did the executive decision to go back with a Posca and re-outline all the areas which I had cross-hatched into, just so that the cross-hatch was very separate from the outline, and the outline was very clear in the suits, because otherwise it blended in quite significantly and you really couldn't tell the details from the outlines. And now we are coming in with a white Sakura jelly roll. Now, I will say I have fallen out of love with the jelly rolls. They don't really perform as well as people used to say. I feel like they were the hot piece of equipment back in the day. It was all over YouTube that you should buy Sakura jelly rolls. And you know, I'm sure they have their purpose, but I don't know, they're not ever opaque enough. So I did end up going back with some acrylic paint. My preferred choice would have been a white Posca, but I have ran out of that ages ago and I just haven't replenished it yet. But the Sakura jelly roll did sort of allow me to get the really fine details, get a couple of swirls into the suit as well, but I would have preferred using a Posca. I only used the acrylic paint for the sort of highlights in the eyes because it really allowed it to pop, and then I did go back in to get all of the jewellery because it just blended in with the background and didn't stand out, and I really wanted all of our earrings to really pop. And then over them I just used a nice gold paint that was just very bright, because on the white background it stands out a lot better. And with that, we have done absolutely everything that we needed to do to this piece, and I can finally show you the final result. But before I do that, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, leave a comment, share it with your friends and family, click the notification bell so you know when I post a new video, and well, all that's left to do is just show you the final results. So let's go and do that. You thought I was done, but I'm not. Now that you've seen the final result, I will then show you how my friends actually reacted to the piece. That is finally the final thing, and bye bye, thank you for watching. Okay, so close your eyes, Okay, 3, 2, 1.
What the fuck? That's like so good, but like so cuss at the same time.
That's what I said when I did it.
That's so weird. But that's really good. Like the hell?
I think I'm so proud that your mug came out good.
I think me and Justina like mugging.
And well, this was unfortunately my mistake. I didn't get any audio recording for Orange Tubby's reaction. So the literal reenactment is, here's the piece. Oh my god, they're so funny. I can't really have a really major reaction because I'm actually traveling to work right now on the tube, so I don't want the rest of the general public to stare at me like I'm a weirdo. So hee hee ha ha ha. Yeah, there you go, that's done.
I'm so excited for this surprise. I have no idea what it is.
You're so annoying.
I'm just totally shocked. I
haven't even shown you yet. Okay, close your eyes, close your eyes.
Okay, wait.
3, 2, 1.
Bro. It looks amazing. Can I swear? No, it looks really good. What the fuck?
Little close up.
Oh my god.
You seen?
Oh my god, I love it. Wow. This is my pink self.
Is it not good though?
It looks great. It actually looks amazing. No lie. I didn't think it could get any better.
No,
Not that I saw it before. I didn't.
Alright, so I'll give it a fake first. I'll be like, oh wow, that's so shit.
You want to guess what?
Do I
what
want to
theme
guess?
it did?
A Disney show?
No. I don't. We've never watched it together, but we've all watched it.
We've
As
all watched
children.
it. As children. Teletubbies. It fucking is, isn't it?
The blue one.
I thought it was, yeah. You forgot the sun though?
No, I couldn't fit the sun. Like, it was too much going on.
Oh my god, that's sick. So it's I see you made up some creative freedom, those make up some colours. I think you've missed two important details in that as well.
What?
There's no Hoover,
Okay, true.
and where's the pancake and the pink sludge? You
You're
should have
so
thrown some
right.
pancakes in the air.
So, in 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Nah, that's good though.
What do you think of the Teletubby motif?
That's hilarious.
Do you think it's a win?
Yeah, man. I saw it immediately. I started laughing. That's really good though. Yeah. I'm looking at it running visually now.
Okay, I'm gonna send
That's really good.
I'm gonna send you the thingy pictures so you can have a good look. But that is the piece for this year of Poltergeist.
You should make that our group chat like picture.
Yeah. Once I show everyone, I'll change it. I think I did solid on this one.
Yeah. The Teletubbies is hilarious.
And well, we don't have Purple Tubby's reaction because Purple Tubby was busy. So let's just assume he enjoyed it and liked it. And maybe in the next video, I'll give you an update on if he did or if he didn't. So with that said, bye bye. That is the video done.